And hey, look at that. You get to see the window, and it's going all crazy. If I move it around, it's like infinite screens go on inside. Anyways, I should probably edit that out. So here's processing, folks. I guess first thing to learn about is don't update it. When you open it up, it'll always say update. We'll update it as an entire room eventually when it's ready to update. So just click no. And here you are in lovely processing. Just so that the microphone can pick up my voice, I'm going to gesture with the mouse as opposed to walking up to the screen, which is a better way to do it, but I don't think my voice will pick up. So just take a look at the mouse pointer and see where I'm pointing. So when you open up processing, it makes a brand new sketch, which is another word for a program. And you can work with that, or you can go and open a new sketch, or sorry, an old sketch. You just go to File and Open over here. Also, there's a place called the Sketchbook, which will just be like a quick access to all of the files that you have been working on, like since the beginning of the year, basically. So as you save things to your Sketchbook folder, and we'll tell you how to do that in a little while, it's a good place to put them, because then you'll have access to them really quickly, and you can go and grab them. I got way too many here, so that's okay. We're going to make a really simple sketch, and then I'm going to tell you a bit about how to draw things to the screen, and then we're going to try and draw some stuff. And then I'll have a short assignment for you guys. And I'm also going to introduce my course website. So here's the beginning of making a processing program. So we're going to start with two structures. One's called setup and one's called draw. And they look like this. And feel free to type them in right now as I type them in. Void setup and void draw. And I'll explain what all these characters are. All right. So first of all, as you type it in, the colors should change to look like they are here if you've done it correctly. I'll let you just type it down, and then I'll explain which ones are braces and which ones are brackets and all that kind of stuff. Just give you guys a second to do that. And Alexa, I'm sorry you're kind of stuck in the corner there. Hopefully it's okay. Okay, good. Okay, folks, so you got your void setup and void draw. Just to let you know, these two parentheses here, they are the parentheses as in shift 9 and shift 0. The actual technical term for that is parentheses or parenthesis. This one here is the curly bracket or brace. It's like beside the letter P. You press shift and you get the little curly one. Not the square one, but you press shift and you hold it and get the curly ones. So we're going to talk a bit about what these symbols mean, and then we'll make a little bit more commands, and we'll make the program run, and we'll see what happens. So first of all, I'm not going to talk too much about what void means for now. Just for now, take it for granted that when you're going to make a new group of commands, you're going to put the word void in front of it. That won't always be true, but for now, if you want to make a group of commands, put void in front of it. The name setup and the name draw here, these are two groups of commands, but they have special meanings in processing, and every program you write in processing will have a void setup and a void draw in it. So you're just going to get really used to typing those things in as soon as you start a project. So what is a setup? So basically, setup is going to be the group of commands that execute, or just happen, I guess is an easier way to explain that, when you start up your program. So while you're waiting for it to run, before anything happens, it does the the setup commands. Anything that you put in between these curly brackets or braces, as we'll come to know them, that will happen first. And then they never happen again. They're done. So these are things like setting up what resolution you want your program to be, what size of screen, maybe setting up some variables, which you haven't talked about yet, some numbers. Like maybe you want a variable called pi, and it's equal to 3.14. So you could set that up in the setup, and then it's ready to go for the rest of your program. The draw, void draw here, is the commands that actually will happen while your program is running. And as you can tell by the name draw, this is where we're going to put all of our drawing commands. So we're going to learn about some of those commands in a second. So let's see if we did it right. I'm going to type our first command in here into the setup, and it's called size. So size is the command that will tell processing what size of window do we want to make our program live inside. So I'm just going to do 500 by, I don't know, I will make them not the same. 500 by 600. So the first number, and all of these commands will work sort of the same way. You'll give the name of the command, and then you'll put some parentheses, and then inside you'll give it some numbers, or possibly letters or other information. So here's how the size command works. So size says, I want a window, and then the first number you give it is how wide it is, and the second number you give it is how tall it is. And that's just something that you're going to remember as you kind of get used to processing. At first, this is going to feel like a whole lot of information. You're going to be like, what? How do I remember? Which is which? So you might want to make a little comment to yourself. If you ever want to make a little note to yourself, you can press 2 forward slashes. That's the key. That's also the question mark. You can put 2 forward slashes and just make a note. So I'm just going to make a note to say, makes a window 500 pixels wide and 600 pixels tall. So it might be nice to give yourself some notes as you go through to remind yourself about this. Every program will probably have a size command that we do, and it's always going to happen in the setup. Okay, so let's see if it worked. I'll press Control. Oh, so actually I should just press the button. There's a little play button here. You can click on that. You can also press Control R if you are lazy like me and you want to use hotkeys. So I'll press that, and you should get a window that'll come up that is a little bit taller than it is wide. Did that work for everybody? Yeah? It's kind of an ugly gray window, but it's a window nonetheless. So our program's going to live inside of this little window. Notice if I just change the numbers here, I'll make it 100. I'll make it 600 by 100. Then it's going to be a wide but short window. See how you can kind of control the size of the window? So it depends on what kind of program you want to write. Maybe you want it to be big, maybe you want it to be small. That doesn't really matter. I'll put it back to 500 by 600. Okay. Now I'm going to run this, and I'm just going to talk a bit about the coordinate system. Actually, you know what? I think I'll introduce you to the website, which has a nice picture of the coordinate system in processing. So the course website is going to be, I think the easiest way to find it is lordbing.net/compsci is going to be the name of the website. And it's not fully made yet. It's going to have some, this is going to be like a randomly changing image that'll have some like funny joke or a reference to something about computer science. And we're in beginning programming, so you can click on that. And it's going to be, everything we need to know about our course is going to sort of live here. I got some of the first assignments ready to go, but not the whole course yet. So if you go there, I'm just going to show you the first look at processing. Oh yeah, I didn't get to show you the video last time. I'll have to show you the video before the end of class. It's got some awesome notes about what you need to know about from this lesson. So again, you don't have to write anything down. You can just refer to the website, lordbing.net/compsci. And I wanted to talk to you about the coordinate system inside of a processing window. So we're going to use coordinates to sort of tell processing where we want to position things. So just like in math, there'll be an x and a y coordinate. The x coordinate will tell it how much, where it's going to be aligned horizontally speaking, and the y coordinate will specify where it will be aligned vertically speaking. However, there's some differences. So in math, in 8th grade, I think it says here, the origin's always at the center, right? So the x and y axis is in the middle, and then as the y axis goes up, the y coordinate increases, and as it goes down, it decreases, and you can get into negative values if you go down far enough. And same with the x coordinate. Similarly for the x coordinate, as you go to the right, it gets bigger. You go to the left, it gets smaller. This is not news to you guys, I don't think, because you've been doing this since at least grade 8, maybe even earlier for some of you. So, especially those of you who are good at math, you're going to hate how processing does it, because it's not the same way. Sure would be nice if it was the same way, but there's actually a good reason why it's not. I'll talk to you about that later. Here's how it works. Just take a look at that diagram and just try to think about it for a second. This is on the right-hand side. That is how processing does coordinates. So I'll just be quiet for a second for you to appreciate it. So X and Y still keep track of the same information, but the way the numbers work are different. So the origin is actually at the top left-hand corner of the screen now, and X is still the same. As you go to the right, the numbers increase, but for the Y value, it starts at 0 at the origin, and as you go down, it increases instead of up. So basically, the way to remember this is the origin is in the top left-hand corner of the screen, and the y-axis is upside down. And that's kind of annoying to deal with at first, but you'll come to take it for granted pretty quickly. The reason why this is, by the way, is not because processing is some derpy program. Every single computer graphics library that's been written since whenever Pong was released, or whatever the first video game ever was. It wasn't Pong, I'm forgetting, Star something. This is the way all graphics have been done. So it's a leftover from an old time when we used to have something called the CRT monitors. Remember those big TVs you might have had when you were young? When we had flat screen TVs? I don't know if you even had them when you were a child. But they needed the numbers to be set up this way. And we just, even though we don't have those TVs anymore, we still have this leftover archaic numbering system. But don't worry, it actually turns out that this will not be a big deal. I probably already spent more time than I need to explain what's going on. So does anybody have any questions about that, or does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, so we'll have to keep that in mind. And you'll make mistakes about it, and you'll laugh about it once in a while, and it'll be okay. All right, so I'm going to now show you how we can draw stuff inside of here. So the first command I'm going to show you is going to be, maybe we'll draw a line. So can anybody guess what the command, I shouldn't use the word function yet. Can anyone guess what the command is to draw a line? Line! You got it! You got it. So now, all commands work the same way, right? You give the name of the command, and then you put the information that the command needs to make it happen. So I type in line, and then I'm going to put some information in parentheses afterwards. So what do you need to tell a computer, or just if you want to draw a line in some kind of Cartesian coordinate system, what information do you need? Points, yeah. You need a start point and an end point. So you're going to need an x and y for the start point, and you'll need an x and y for the end point. So we're going to give it 4 numbers. I'm just going to write a comment right now just to demonstrate, to write down what the pattern will be. So it's going to be line, and then you're going to give it the x and y coordinates for the first point. So I'll put x1, y1, and then you're going to give it the x and y coordinates for the second point, x2, y2. And I didn't talk about semicolons yet, but every command ends with a semicolon, just to let you know. Okay, so I'm going to actually put some numbers in there. This is just a comment to remind me what the format is. And let's say I want to make a line that stretches from the top left-hand corner of the screen to the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. So it's a diagonal line that cuts across the screen. If you know that the size is 500 by 600, and knowing what you know about the coordinate system, with the upside-down y-axis and all that stuff, what is going to be the numbers I need to give it? So what would be the beginning coordinates? 0, 0. You got it, because the top left-hand corner is 0, 0. And what's the coordinates for the bottom right-hand corner? 500, 600. You got it. Now, if you're sitting there going, I didn't get that, that's cool. We'll talk about it more, and you'll have an opportunity to kind of explore this a little bit more. So don't forget to put your semicolon at the end. A semicolon says, I'm done this command. Let's run it. So let's see what happened. Bam! We got a line. Holy smokes. You are now a computer programmer. You have written your first program. It's not particularly exciting, but it's something. You cannot deny it is something. I am going to go back to the screen. I'll give you a second just to kind of look at it. If you ran the program and it didn't work, I can come over and take a look, and I'll pause the video. Otherwise, if everyone got that to work, then you are the best class ever, because I've never had that happen before. Everybody get that to work? Oh, you guys are amazing. Okay, let's go. I'm just going to show you a few other commands that you can do. And we're just going to do a bunch of like drawing commands. So let's say you want to draw a rectangle. So rectangle is a little bit different. You could give it 4 points. That would be a fine way to draw a rectangle, but that's a lot of information. You don't really need to give it 4 points. You could instead just give it 1 point and then a width and a height. And then that would only be 4 numbers. So that's actually how the rect function works for drawing rectangles. So the command is called rect, to draw a rectangle. In the comment, I'll just tell you sort of the formula. So the way it works is rect. The first number is your x coordinate of the top left-hand corner. So that's a little bit hard to remember, but it's not a big deal if you forget, because actually you can change that in information. So you give the x and the y for the top left-hand corner, and then you give the width and the height. That's the pattern. So I'm going to make a rectangle. I'm going to draw it at 0, I don't know. I'll draw it at 100, 100. So it'll be 100 pixels down and 100 pixels to the right. And I'll make it a 50 by 100 size rectangle. So it'll be 50 wide and 100 tall. So it should be a skinny, tall-ish rectangle that starts upwards towards the top right-hand side of the screen. So those are the x and y coordinates. Oops, this is the width and height. Are you guys feeling okay about this? Is there any questions about this so far? Okay, let's run it and see what happened. Hey, look, there's a rectangle. It drew it right there. It's got a white inside and a black outside. So a question that might be fermenting in the back of your brain is, how do we change colors and that kind of stuff? I'll tell you about that in a little bit. I'll just give you a couple more drawing commands. How about drawing circles? Oh, and by the way, rectangles can draw squares pretty easily, right? If you can draw a rectangle, you can just give it the same width and height and it'll be a square. So we won't go into that. Drawing circles and ellipses. This is the next thing we're going to do. So the command is ellipse. I think I always spell it wrong every time, but I think I got it this time. So an ellipse is just a fancy word for a circle that can have not a perfect circle. Like you can stretch it out like an egg or something. So I'll write down the pattern for that. So an ellipse, you give the x and y coordinate of the center of the circle. I know, it's really annoying, you gotta remember these things, but you'll get used to it. And then you give a diameter. I should call it, I'll call it an x diameter. Diameter. So it's the width of the circle and the height of the circle. You know what, that's just the words I'm gonna use. Width of the ellipse, I should say, and the height of the ellipse. If you make those numbers the same, it'll be a circle. And then you'd put a semicolon afterwards. So I'm going to put it at the center of the screen. So what's the coordinates of the center of the screen? If it's 500 by 600, what's the x coordinate center? 250. Yeah, you just take half of it. And the vertically, it's going to be 600 divided by 2, or 300. And I'll make the width 50 by 100. So again, it'll be taller and kind of skinnier. Let's move these out a little bit. Make my formatting okay. Control R. Hey, look, there's an ellipse. You kind of see the pattern here that I'm trying to get at? It's any command is a name, and then afterwards there are parentheses, and inside the parentheses are whatever information that command expects so that you can get the result that you want to get. And then you terminate it, or you end it with a semicolon. I am going to stop the recording right now and just let you guys play around with that a little bit. Make like a face or something. Make just a simple drawing at your seats, and then we're going to get back together. I'm going to turn the video back on, and we're going to talk about colors. So adding in colors. So just right now, make a simple picture using lines, rectangles, and ellipses, and you can use as many of these commands as you want. You can put 10 ellipses in there if you want to make. Just try something. It's not for marks, it's just for experimenting. Okay, thanks folks. I'm going to pause it.